Hello. Apparently we're working with the weight thing. We're working with our, cravings and weight and stuff like that because that's what's showing up for me and this is part of my journey and I've decided to bring you along for it. So today I have it's fascinating because I mentioned in my last video how I just felt so much more freed up and well, actually I think that was part that you didn't get to hear, that I have already dropped another pound and a half in just like the 24 hours that since I had that realization about how it wasn't safe, which I had recognized. I'd felt that it was a safety issue, but that it didn't feel safe for me to continue to release weight. And now I had that understanding and it felt really good. And I just honestly, I mean, it sounds funny. It's like I was craving celery juice 2 days ago and craving more vegetables, and then all of a sudden this afternoon I got hit really hard with these cravings for candy. And I mean, which is weird because if I were to put candy in my mouth, it would just taste and feel so gross to me. I know it's not what my body wants, because if I try giving my body that, then my body just like, oh, I feel terrible. I don't like it. I don't even like how it tastes in my mouth. I'm so super sensitive to sugar anymore because I don't have a lot of sugar anymore. I'm amazed at how infrequently I even buy sugar for use at my home. So it's been really kind of baffling to me that all of a sudden I felt hit so strongly with this craving for not cookies. I mean, anything sweet, you're thinking like desserts, like cake, or because cupcakes used to be like a really big stress relief for me. It's like I'd go and buy those little mini cupcakes and like down the whole package between me and, here, son, have like 2 little mini cupcakes. Mommy's going to eat the other 10, so I don't feel so bad that I just ate 10 mini cupcakes instead of like having a whole cake. But, and so, I mean, there's been that side of it, and that's not been there. And today it was very specific for candy. And I knew, it's like, well, maybe I could just make some cookies. It's like, no, that's not what I'm craving. It's like specifically candy. And this afternoon, I went to the pantry cupboard and I'm like, just open it up. It's like, I need something. I need something. And I grabbed a bag of potato chips out. I'm like, I don't want this. I'm like, but there's nothing else to snack on. It's like, I'm not going to say my cupboards are bare. They're not, but I just don't buy stuff like that. And the very few things that I have would be like occasionally some potato chips are in the cupboard, or like, I'll get like tortilla chips and we'll have them with homemade refried beans or something. Basically, I have to make everything or like have one of these cravings hit when I'm like at the store, and then I'll like cave and buy something. But so yeah, there was nothing to be found. And I'm not craving chocolate because whatever it is that is going on with me is not about chocolate. And because otherwise I'd, just go and eat the chocolate chips from my pantry. I don't want the chocolate, but there's this very specific craving for the candy, and I'm looking at my kitty cat. She wants my attention suddenly. So interestingly enough, ignored the potato chips, and the next thing I know, I've got the potato chips out and I'm snacking on potato chips and I'm eating, and they taste okay, but I'm like, this isn't what I want. And I put the potato chips back away and then turn around, and like 2 or 3 minutes later, it's like I'm back in the potato chips and I'm like, this isn't what I want. And I put the potato chips away. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's like, yes, I'm getting a little bit hungry for dinner. It's dinner time. I just need to like ignore this, and maybe having dinner will make the craving go away. And it did not. In fact, I actually even ate more than I normally would. I ate to uncomfortably full, not super uncomfortably full, but it's definitely more than I would normally eat. And I didn't feel comfortable. And I just sat there and like, oh my gosh, what do I have? There's got to be something that I have that I can fix this with. And it's like, I'm kind of like, normally it's like, I was like, you know what, fruit's sweet and it actually satisfies me. And so maybe I'll go for fruit. Well, I really don't have any fruit right now that I would be willing to eat, because it's like from a can for other stuff. It's like, it's the fresh fruit that fixes it for me. And I finally realized, I'm like, you know what, I've got some fresh raw honey. And I went and grabbed just a little 1/4 teaspoon, and I had some, and it was like really, really good, but it didn't I mean, it kind of like lessened the craving for a couple of minutes, but then it was there again. And I thought, I know better. I know exactly what I would tell one of my clients. I would tell them, go and journal on this, what's going on. And this is not going to go away for me until I do the work on it. So I did that. I took my own advice and I journaled on it. It's like, whichever way this goes, I'm going to get better at this, I promise. And so my question was, what is driving this craving for sugar, candy, sweetness? Because it's specifically sugar candy. I even considered honestly eating just like a spoonful of sugar, you know, Mary Poppins makes the medicine go down. But I didn't. I went for the honey because that's what made me actually think about it. It's like, well, maybe I could just have some sugar. And I'm like, no, it's like, but hey, I have honey. And so that's actually what made me go for the honey. And here's what came up. In fact, I was really surprised at how quickly it came up. I didn't have to sit with the question very long. And I had a memory come up, and it was from when I was growing up. And Friday nights were treat nights. My mom and dad, they didn't have a whole lot of extra money. They saved very diligently all year round just to give us a good Christmas. And to be able to take us camping for vacations for summer. It wasn't anything extravagant. We got, you know, a lot of our clothes from thrift stores, which by no means am I knocking on. Some of my most favorite clothes have come from thrift stores. But just financially speaking, things were tight for my family for a lot of years. But the one thing that we always had that was like really consistent, no matter how tight things were, is that we would go down to the local gas station and Dad would, you know, we'd get to pick out like a candy bar, and, you know, I'd do like a big hunk, or I would do like the Swedish fish, or like sometimes I do like the Tootsie Roll Pops. And as I got older, I would do the clear Canadian sparkling drinks, like once I started hitting like late junior high school, or the Yoplait yogurts were a big deal, and I just loved how silky and smooth they were, and I was trying to make better choices for myself, so I thought, well, instead of getting candy, I'll get a Yoplait, which interestingly enough, as I was journaling, a Yoplait sounded equally as satisfying as the candy. And I thought that was totally fascinating. And so I recognized that with the financial, and it wasn't, and the other thing that came to mind was it was because there was that prolonged financial, not sacrifice, but long-term financial, on my paper I labeled it devastation, and it wasn't devastation either, but I've not been able to think of the correct word for it, but just, it's this long-term financial distress. That's the word I'm looking for. And we've been in this now for a while, and it's really uncomfortable where, you know, the credit cards are at and where the bank account is at, and that, you know, there's this flux of income that, you know, it's here and then it's not, and it's caused a lot of discomfort. And how interesting that my body is actually triggering back to this time in my childhood when there was very similar things. The difference being that I'm an adult now and I have so much more control over that than when you're in a child situation and you don't have control over the financial picture. You just see your parents struggling and talking about, it's like, all right, well, what do we need to do with this bill? And okay, well, let's wait to pay it for this. And so it was just really interesting to recognize that that's where that craving was coming from. And exactly as I expected, as soon as I found the source for it, that craving massively dissipated. I'm not going to pretend and lie to you and tell you that this time it went away completely. Oftentimes it does. I have seriously had cravings for something completely shut down as soon as I knew what it was about. This time it didn't shut down, but it's massively just, it went from like here down to here. And so having those cravings is just, it's speaking to us. It's talking to you from a place probably in the past, either something that you've experienced similar, or it could be, it's interesting how flustered I get when I see somebody gets on and that's new, and I'm like, oh, hi, you know, so hi, Kendra. And so anyways, I wanted to get on and I wanted to share that with you. And and just let you know that, you know what, I'm still having my days that are difficult, and I'm not going to pretend that it's every day is a picnic. It's totally not. And whether it's the financial or the weight, or I've really gotten a hold of the self-worth and self-love stuff. But even some days, like yesterday, I noticed I had a good portion of my day where I was really getting stuck in my head, and I had to keep pulling myself back out and keep reaffirming to myself the things that I knew were true, but that the fear that was in my head kept stirring up of, what if this doesn't work? What if this is something that I have to go and do this? What if I have to settle again? Because this is something that's up for me right now. Is my whole life I've settled for less than what I actually wanted, because I felt like I would never get it. And so I settled for less in hopes that I'd have at least a little joy. And then that little bit of joy didn't come. And I was mad that I'd settled, because I didn't get it. Not only did I not get what I wanted, but I actually ended up with something I didn't want because I settled. And I'm recognizing that this is part of me, and this is part of what I'm creating for myself. But so I still have those days, and yesterday was one of those days where it was more of a challenge that I had to. I was grateful that I've practiced this for enough time, and I've made progress in that I've been able to be aware of what I'm doing. So I'll catch myself in these emotions, I'll catch myself in these feelings, and I'll be able to switch it and intentionally focus on what it is that I'm wanting, intentionally focusing on what it is that I do want. It's like, no, I'm fine. This is going to be fine. I'm moving forward with what I feel like I need to do, and I'm not going to allow myself to get sucked into fear. I know that this is the answer that I was given, and I'm going to trust that. I'm choosing to trust this. And so I've been able to move forward. And then today's been a really fantastic day. And then, you get hit with the cravings today. And so today was the cravings, and they're all tied together. I know that they are. They're like different pieces of the same puzzle of things that I'm working through for myself right now. But I just figure, you know what, if I'm experiencing this, why not get on and share this with you and let you have the benefit. And you can join me in that journey, and you can, let you be encouraged that there is hope, that, what, I even considered today, maybe this is just one of those days where I just rest, and I cave into the cravings, and I, go down to the store and I buy candy, even though I know that it's going to feel really gross if I have it. And I thought, you know what? No, because today honestly doesn't feel like one of those days where I need to, quote unquote rest. It's one of those days I need to investigate. I need to listen to my body, what my body is telling me. And that finally happened this afternoon. I knew it earlier today, and just kept putting it off, and, kind of hiding from myself and not dealing with it. And then I was able to finally, this afternoon, I just thought, after dinner, I'm like, it just kicked up. It's just kicked up stronger. And that's just what happens too, is that the more we ignore stuff, the more it gets kicked up until we listen. And so you want to know why your life gets so painful? Honestly, it's like, because you're not listening. And so your life gets more painful until you listen and pay attention to it and start working on it and healing it. And then it gets better. And I know this because this has been my experience. I mean, I've recognized that for a few years, that just everything kept getting harder and more difficult and more painful emotionally, and more painful, in all these other aspects, until I finally was like, I can't keep doing this. It has to stop. And nobody's coming to my rescue. I have to be the one to work on this. And then to actually learn about different aspects and different lines of thought that helped me to recognize that, oh, wow, we actually do have so much more control in our lives than what we've ever imagined. And we think that things aren't fair, and we think that, we have no power. And those are they're not true. We do have power in our own lives. And when we take hold of that and start learning how to work with that power, and how to work with our thoughts, and how to work with what is available to us, and just the natural laws of the universe, that, that brings us so much control in our own lives that we didn't even think that we had. And then on top of that, just that life is actually very fair, because everything that we have on the inside, it brings us what we experience physically, and with people and experiences and situations that come into our lives that match who we believe we are inside, or what we believe about ourselves. And so as we shift that, as you heal the inside, your outside life and your outside world starts to reflect that. And I've noticed that. I've seen that over the last 5 years as I've applied those principles, and I've been able to start shifting my life. And this has been an area now with finances and with my physical health that I have decided I am reclaiming my power back, that I'm not allowing that to be an autopilot anymore, and I'm choosing to take control of that, and I'm seeing success. And so anyways, that's what I wanted to say tonight, is I just wanted to share that, you know what, I still do my own work. And sometimes I even put it off when I know I need to do it, but I still do my own work. So I just want to encourage you, don't give up. Don't give up. If you need encouragement, come here and review the videos.